Hi guys, those of you joining, just give me a couple of minutes. I'm just setting up the last of my gear, give everybody a chance to find the feed and log on, and then I'll get things underway. Hope you're all good. How's it going, Lampros? You alright, mate? Good to see you on. I knew you wouldn't miss something like this. I know you like to see how the rest of the boys are getting on with the development. How's it going, Zeb? You alright, mate? The neck's looking a little bit different from the last time you saw it, my friend. Looking a little bit posher these days, but it's definitely serving me well, mate. Definitely serving me well. I'll tell you what, without you I wouldn't be able to do all these videos, so thank you for that. It's definitely given me a chance to get a jump start on this system while everything's going on. How's it going, John? You alright? As usual, guys, just giving it a few minutes, waiting for everybody to log on, and then I will get chatting about what we're going to talk about this evening. So, quite a lot to go through, so let's give it a minute or two. Once there's a handful more people, I'll start chatting. Let's move some more crap out of the way. Got a lot to cover, so hopefully you'll stick around for the full stream, or at very least ask a few questions. And if you can't catch it all, then definitely watch it back and see if there's anything that you've missed. And drop me some questions and I'll see if I can answer them at a later date. But yeah, covering quite a few things this evening. So, right, there's people discovering it now, so I'm going to start yapping. Forgive me if I go a bit quick. I'm going to switch back to my ugly. The first time in a long time. I've not been on camera for a while, because every time I seem to do these videos, I'm always being caught kind of last minute, and I look like I've just been dragged out of bed. So I just thought I'd go on camera for a minute, say hello, how you doing? Welcome to the YamYam retro gaming stream. I'm sorry people haven't seen that much of me recently. You probably heard some of my rantings, you've probably seen some of my postings, but you haven't seen a lot of my face because I've been so busy doing so many different things. But yeah, I'm coming on camera now because there's a lot I've got to cover. There's a lot been happening in the last couple of months. A few of you know I've not been particularly well, so I've been off my usual endeavours, and I've been at home concentrating on other things. I've had to do a lot of organisation for events. Event season started in like March, so we're attending other events up and down the country. I'm taking my gear up and down. I've got a lot of repairs to undertake. I mean, I've got events to do where I've got to take my arcade machines and things like that, and they are going to need a lot of repair. How's it going, Kev? Nice to see you on as well, mate. So the last couple of months I've been doing repairs to my arcade machines. I've had loads of my consoles go out for repair. My repairman, Jason, has been working his bollocks off trying to get all these things done in preparation for revival. And while I'm mentioning that, I'm going to flip that around and I'm going to plug myself. Just another reminder to people. I know some of you won't be able to make it this time, sadly. But I'm just telling you that you really should do, because this may be the last large one for a while, in case I have to take some time off next year. This may be the last large revival while we take a break. Revival Gaming Legends, 15th and 16th of June, at Banksy Stadium in Warsaw. People who've been there before know how cool our event is. I know a lot of people support the big events, and I know a lot of people go to the ones that encompass all gaming, but we're pure retro heads, and we've been keeping it real for the last 7 years, and I hope that people continue to support our events so we can continue to bring you the best in retro gaming. We tend to get all the best guests, we tend to get all the best features, and we really know our stuff. So hopefully if you've not been before, you'll get yourself along, and if you have been before, please make sure you don't miss this one, because there may not be one for 2020. We'll see what happens. So anyway, so I'm going to plug that. So busy organising things for that. I've obviously been busy doing things back home. I've been having a bit of a clear out, to be honest. Those of you who see my post realise I'm selling a load of my ex-demo arcade machines because they're approaching retirement now. They're looking a bit battered. I'm selling loads of spare consoles, some things I've had repaired. I'm clearing out the last of my games. The reason I'm clearing out a lot of that, people have been saying, are you selling up? And I'm like, well, no, I'm not. It's just that I'm not a game collector, I'm not a software collector, I'm a hardware collector. I love my rare systems, I love my consoles, I love my computers, but I hate the inconvenience, and I haven't got the room to be a shelf collector. So all of the last of my games and all that kind of rubbish is now being dug out, and everything in my collection now is being replaced finally with flash solutions. So we're talking EverDrives, plug-in solutions, drive replacements. I'm working on doing that for my entire collection, even the rare systems. So keep your eye on my postings, because I've still got a few things to sell. As it happens, there are a couple of things here ready to go. I've sent out so much stuff from the post office last couple of weeks. I mean, I've got one here going to Andy up at Arcade Club. That's a Neo Geo game. That's on its way out the door. I've sold loads of Neo Geo carts, but I've still got, in case anyone's interested out there and haven't seen my listings, I've got a few 3DO titles left here. I've got Iron Angel of the Apocalypse, that's fully boxed with, with inserts and everything. Patank, not sure how good that is, never played it myself. Theme Park, which is iconic, and obviously the 3DO version is very good. And Super Street Fighter 2 Turbo. That is a disc only, unfortunately, in this really strange pink jewel case. But anybody who knows that Super Turbo on the 3DO is probably one of the best console ports you can get. So I've got listings on eBay, I've got listings on Facebook, all over the place. You want to see what else I'm selling? I've dug out a few extra consoles. I found a spare Master System 2, spare Mega Drive 2, spare SNES, spare Saturn. I found a few extra bits and bobs. So just keep an eye on my listings. If there's anything you want, let me know and I'll see what I can do. And if anybody wants some backup CDs for various systems, now I've got flash solutions. I don't need them, so hit me up if you need anything like that, and I'll try and hook you up. So I've been having a big clear out. There's a lot more going out. I've still got loads of videos to make as well. I've got some brilliant systems coming up which I really want to cover. A few I've teased several times and I really want to get done. One of them, which I posted the pictures for the other day, everyone's really interested to see, is I finally got my SIO from Australia. That's the PlayStation flash solution, the first one. And I've got this fully loaded now. I've got the switch chip installed into the system. Jason again at RG's Attic has done that for me, and I'll be doing a video on this in the next week or two. I'm just struggling to find the time right now because obviously evenings are the best and people are busy, I'm busy, so I'm doing a video on that. I've also been doing a video on this with my main man Aaron, fellow YamYam. We're going to be doing it on the Atari Jaguar. Now, people of you who are in the know that the Jaguar is one of the few systems yet to not have a flash solution, also not to have an EverDrive-like flash solution. Well, the good news is that one is very, very nearly ready now, and I'll be covering that later this year when it's finally released. But in the meantime, a lot of things have been happening, and we've managed to pick up a couple of copies of Doom. I've now got, I've had 2 Jaguars repaired. And thankfully somebody has gone out of their way to reproduce the Pro controllers for the Jaguar. Now, anybody who collects will know that these things are seriously expensive. You get an original one from back in the day, there were hardly any released. You're looking at £250 to buy one of these now. Well, somebody's made some reproductions of them now, so we've actually got 6-button Jaguar controller with L and R buttons, which will allow strafing in games like Doom. Not only that, but I've managed to pick up a third-party link cable, and for those of you who do know your Jaguar, that is one of the very, very few systems, the very, very few games that you can actually link on the Jaguar. So in one of the streams coming up next week, hopefully, if Aaron's got his car fixed, he'll be coming round and we'll be doing a Jaguar Doom link up, so you'll get to see how one of the best ports of Doom is played in link. So that's something else we've got coming up. I've also been doing a lot of other random things. The missus made me happy today. She bought me a label maker. I need to start labelling up my things like my PSUs. My power supply units for a lot of my systems are just getting out of control. People tend to grab for the wrong ones when we do events, and that can cause problems. So finally got myself a label maker, and I've been dicking around already, as you can see. just testing it out, and I'll be labelling everything up thoroughly with that pretty soon and wearing that out. So, and yes, as somebody's just pointed out, yes, I had a mega steak yesterday. Okay, it's a cliche, the big guy can eat well, but yeah, I eat well, and I've done big steak challenges and stuff before. We've done loads over the years, but the last big one out was years ago, and last night we went out for my niece's birthday, and I'll post some pictures on Facebook. I've done, I did a big 48-ounce awesome steak. Place I've actually been before for steak, and I tell you what, it's probably probably the second best steak I've ever had, and it was superb. And I completely polished that off in about 20 minutes, nailed that one down. But now I'm probably not going to go to the toilet for a week. So there's always a trade-off. And I know a few of you are joking about it. I'll probably have more likes for that post. I've had about 100 likes on that post in 24 hours. I don't get that many likes when I'm booking top-end guests for Revival. I don't get that many likes when I'm doing some awesome hacks and shit. But I'll post a picture of a fucking steak and suddenly everyone's really excited. So, but yeah, it was an awesome steak anyway. Plug for Bert's Bistro there. If you're ever in the Wolverhampton area, get there, get one of those steaks. 36 quid for a 48-ounce steak, but they've got a brilliant menu. They're a proper independent place. They do lobster, all kinds of nice stuff there, so check that out anyway. So yeah, that's everything else I've been up to. Yeah, besides that, I've been working again on my game, on Revival Survival. You haven't seen much of that. That's because I've been so tied up with the event organisation. Not much has kind of moved on in terms of the progress for that. Mike and Jim and Alan have all been working hard on that while I've not been, and they're so yeah, a few more stages have been produced. I'm going to quickly cover that in a minute, just to show you that the enemy movements and everything are being refined. Those guys with Rusty Pixels have been hard at work getting the final touches put on Baggers in Space, obviously, Warhawk, and also doing some other side projects, because the next, it's very, very nearly here. I know everyone's getting really antsy about it. A lot of you are watching this, I know you're getting really antsy waiting for the next. It's going to be awesome when it comes out, and everybody's going to love it. I've been had the luxury of using one now for 12 months, and even as just a development board, and there's been some ups and downs with it, because obviously you have to keep messing with firmware, the software's changing all the time, but I've slowly got to grips with it, and I'm a complete novice when it comes to this stuff. I've never been a coder, and you know, I think people are going to really enjoy using it when they get it. It might even be probably under what some people can do, but it's getting people like me being able to use computers properly and going back to way back when we should have learned them, you know. But obviously was too young back in the day. So yeah, so the next is right on the cusp now, and the guys from Rusty Pixels have got their games nearly out. You'll have seen in the last couple of weeks there has been a shitload of development going on. You're seeing more titles announced by people like Kev Brady. You've got Lampros. You've got 3 guys still working on theirs. I still mean to cover some of theirs. And as well as the main games they're doing, a lot of these guys are working on things on the side. There's projects going on with like third-party developers who've been creating games silently and didn't want to give too much away. So as soon as they're ready to show it, they've started to announce them now. There's been lots of fighting games announced, new platformers, adventure games. If you go to the Spectrum Next Games site that has been put up by Mike C, you'll see that there's like the games list is getting massive now. It was rumoured that about 50 games are in production for it, and that is now looking more realistic, and you're seeing some real meat of the games now. And yeah, I can see you all talking about steak on my feed. Yeah, thanks for that. Steak eating stage at Revival. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool actually, John. I'd be down for that. I'd probably make time for that. So yeah, there's so much coming up for the next now. And I've been covering lots of games. A lot of the developers have promised me they will give me some early access demo, so I can show it again in real time. And I know people are now capturing video straight from the feed using things like Elgatos and things like that. I will never do that. That's not what I'm about. I'm about showing it you real, showing it me here in my kitchen with my computer and a TV, doing it in real time. I know it's never going to look top end, But at the end of the day, you can see it, you can hear it, and you're getting a real demonstration of how the hardware works. So when you get yours, there should be no unpleasant surprises, because you can see that a novice can use it well. But we're going to have the nice fancy keyboards, we're going to have the nice shell that Rick Dickinson created. It's going to be brilliant when it comes. I've still not even got to see even a close approximation of that, because I've never been anywhere where it's been demoed, but I know it's looking pretty much as good as the original renders were showing, so it's going to look cool. And for now, what I've got here is really cool. You know, I have my new case from ZX Renew, I've had some new cables and everything to make it more usable, and I'm just really enjoying using it. Gaming on this thing is a pleasure. Someone was talking the other day about the video buffering. It's probably because I'm running through my 4G Zeb. I was running on my Wi-Fi, but I've had a few problems with Wi-Fi the last couple of times. If the quality drops, I do apologise. I'm as near as I can to the window, so we should be able to get clear enough reception out the window. So just bear with me. But anyway, yes, so there's been lots going on with the NXT. There's a lot been going on with games, and there's a lot been going on with software. The guys are running on with side projects. So far, we've seen a pretty much arcade perfect port of Scramble. I've now got the final version of that. I've been sent that by Mike Ware. I've seen some little teasers from other people. I've seen teasers of a fighting game. I've seen teasers of an adventure game, and I've seen teasers of a proper RPG going on. So, you know, there's a lot going on that you just haven't had a chance to see yet, and when you finally do, you're going to be extremely pleased with what's been going on with the NXT. But as well as games, one thing that's been mentioned a lot, but people haven't really touched on because they haven't got access to original hardware, is the other software that's being developed for the system. Now, the system, unlike the original Spectrum, developing directly on the system, beyond a little bit of basic, you know, and everybody, I think a lot of people in this country cut their teeth either on Acorn systems or on the Spectrum. You will have learned, you know, Microsoft Basic through, you know, the Spectrum or the Micro, and you know you'd have been learned those iterations of it, and that probably would have been your first introduction to coding. And you can again learn Basic. You've got extended NXT Basic available on the Spectrum NXT, but there's obviously going to be, because it's a much more competent computer. Much like the 16-bit computers, home computers of the early 90s, you're going to be able to do a lot more functional stuff directly on the computer itself. And some of the guys that you've already seen games from have written some brilliant pieces of software which will enable you to do that. So we're going to switch to the TV now. A couple of things we're going to be covering today. I'm just going to kill the flash. There we go. Else you're not going to be able to see Jack. And I'll get this into focus. And the first thing I'm going to be covering, well, I'm going to show you what changes I've made to my system recently. So I'll just reset it quickly. So, people who've seen my videos regularly may notice a few changes. Obviously, the core has been updated. I've needed to do some development updates on this that other people might not have had access to, in order to keep the latest builds of things like Revival Survival and the other Rusty Pixels games running optimally, because there's new instruction sets and things being put in all the time, and you have to keep abreast of it. I do believe when the Spectrum NXT drops, there will be as complete an operating system as is possible. A proper 1.0 full, initial release, so you won't have to do too much messing about. A lot has had to have been done in the last 12 months. And I think I actually screwed up this NXT a few times after the last 12 months, but now I'm just getting to grips with it. There's a couple of things I've made changes to. I've now got a much more stable 60 Hz image going on. So what you're seeing there is a full 60 Hz, full height 60 Hz screen going on there, and it's now stable, whereas before it wasn't. How's it going, Pete? You all right, mate? Spectrum's running nice here, mate. And one of the things I actually enabled the other day is that if you look at the bottom of the menu there, you'll see that black bar. And you'll see that that is actually giving a real-time feedback of the date and the time. Now, if you've got the real-time clock module installed on your Spectrum Next, you'll be able to have that running as well. You just saw it tick over there to 2029. It's going to be a necessity for certain applications. Not for all, but I can see it becoming used for a lot more. When you think about things like save states, save games and things like that, I think that accurate time and date checking will be necessary for certain games in order to log things properly. It's necessary for one of the pieces of software I'm going to demonstrate for you in a minute, which is NXtel. So I'll explain a bit more about that in just a second. So, like I say, a couple of pieces of software I want to talk about. I've changed up my file system somewhat, and I've got my trusty Mega Drive Competition Pro controller plugged in. This has now become my default. I love my Kensington joysticks, but this has, obviously I need 2 buttons for my game, and a lot of other games are coming out now with more functionality, so having the additional buttons available allows me to do everything using this joypad, and I'll show you why that's really cool shortly. So using this, I can browse my menu, I can jump backwards and forwards in the folders, and it works absolutely fine for me. So I've enabled the real-time clock. I've tidied up my my browser folders. You'll see a few new entries on this list. The first thing is NXtel folder, which I've put in obviously in order to demonstrate this. There's one there for Plot It as well, which is a new piece of software being done by 3 guys, which is a sort of art package. Now, I haven't had time to look at that and cover that one in detail yet. I will attempt to have a look at that. Some of these things, people who've got the Development Next boards or the early release boards won't have had access to yet, but thankfully some of the developers have been sharing this with me because they know I'm going to be sharing it with you all once I've given it the once over and seen and showed you exactly, you know, how to use these things and how they're going to benefit us. So I will cover it once I've spoken to the developers. I've tidied up my games folder. I'll say I've tidied up. There's a lot more appeared on here. You'll see a couple of entries there which are clues to things that may be coming up. I can't really talk about too much at the moment, but I've dropped a lot of my apps and demos into a dedicated folder here. The second thing we're going to be talking about is DNext, which I've got a very recent build of that here. But so yeah, jumping back, I mean, my next games folder now, 6 months ago this was empty. I've now got various builds of everything. I've got all my complete, I mean, I've got the demo version still, but I've got the complete games of things like all the releases by Adrian Cummings on here. I've got, you know, loads of different versions of the demos that have been made by, you know, Mike and the other guys on here. I really want to do a latest build of the Hollow Earth hypothesis because that's come a long way to my understanding. I've got an incredibly recent build of Baggers in Space here, which I'm not going to show you because I think it would be spoiling it to show you anymore right now. Yeah, Robin's just said on here, glad you could join us, by the way, Robin. Yeah, 15 pages of files in the room. It's like desktop maintenance, you know, with your PC. A lot of people hate it when you got a desktop covered in things. Sometimes it becomes unavoidable when you're developing things. I had to take everything I had, and I've now renamed them with dates and things like that because I was sent them for different reasons, and in order for me to identify the right one I want to check back on, I needed to see exactly when I got it, what build it was, and if I've got any bugs to report, I can then obviously tell the guys, you know, what needs looking at. Like Warhawk there, I've got 3 different builds on there, which have all come in the last few months. So yeah, so I've just tidied everything up anyway to make it a bit more presentable. The most I've got on there obviously is Revival Survival. I mean, we're up to now the 13th build of the game, and I'll quickly show you that at the end of the video because we've made some progress. There's now 4 full stages on there. Still some more new enemies to put in, but it is so much more playable now, reacting the way it should be. And yeah, so it's just a matter of tidying everything, keeping everything neat. Like I say, we've now got the final version of Scramble on here. by Mike Ware, and it is running absolutely brilliant. I'm still not excellent at it, but the timing, the pace, the audio speed and everything has now been refined, and it is pretty much as spot on as it's going to be. I'll quickly cover that at the end as well once I've covered the main things. You'll also notice another new little name has appeared at the bottom there, but I've not got permission to show you that yet, so we're just going to quickly skim over that. Oh, and the demo at the top, and we will jump back. So if you can find at least eggs in my videos, play it back, and maybe you'll find something you like the look of, and you can ask questions on next time. So I'm going to go back to the main page, and the first thing I'm going to show you, we're going to look at NXtel. Now, a lot of people have asked about taking the Next online. Now, they wanted the system to be a very modern iteration, the third generation of Sinclair computers. Now, in order for a third generation to exist today, it would have to have expanded functionality. And the only way you're going to get that with a modern computer is to be online. Now, the Next has got its own Wi-Fi module that can be installed, and thankfully it's installed in this. And even though the online services are very early and primitive at the moment, you can get online, and I'm going to show you what that is like in just a second. So, getting online is a little bit tricky, I will admit, and it took me a little while to get it done. But thankfully, Robin Verhagen guest, I want to say. Yes, sorry. Yes, Robin Verhagen guest. He has helped me through this. He's taught me through it. He told me obviously I needed to get my real-time clock working. You also have to go into, and he did send me instructions for this, thankfully. There's a whole wiki around this, and he's trying to write concise instructions. You have to go into a certain folder on here, which I believe is in Tools, I think. No, see, I can't even find it right now. But there is actually a terminal application for this, and what you need to do is you need to set up your Next initially using terminal to connect to your Wi-Fi, your 4G hotspot, or whatever internet you're going to be using. You need to do that initially to get your system set up. Once you've got it set up, your Next will remember those settings. So you won't need to do it again. It will remember those settings, and the next time you go to go online, it will automatically connect to your router or your hotspot, wherever that may be. So once that's done, you can then use NXtel, which is the first application to get your Next online. So it comes as a Next application, and again you have to do a few things to configure the actual server you go to. Now, a few people have seen some previews of this. NXtel is basically, apparently there was a service, I think ran in France back in the day, related to this, which was very much like teletext or CFAX. And originally it was a service related to the Spectrum, but it went offline years ago. We haven't had teletext and CFAX for a while, but this service, because it's so basic and because it's text-based, is a very fast way to get you online in colour, to be able to feed you information, and you can do various things while you're online. So when you load up NXtel, you're presented with this, demos and UART. There you go, Robin's just keyed you in there. And he's just said there will be a wizard for this, so this will help you out if you're looking to do it yourself. If you do want any help, Robin is a very helpful guy. In fact, all of the developers have been super handy, super clued up guys, super handy guys. And, I don't know them all that well, but, I think I've developed a bit of a kinship with some of them, and they can see what I'm trying to communicate. And you speak to any of them, they will give you tips on your coding, they will give you advice on how to use certain things for coding for the Next, how to use your Next itself. It is very much a community driven thing. There is one thing I've discovered is there doesn't really seem to be a central hub, as it were, that's actually responsible for everything that the Next is about. Jim Jim Bagley came in as kind of a third party initially, and just became more and more involved as time's gone on. And obviously, all of the developers that you've seen work from that I've demoed so far have in some way contributed stuff to whatever is going into the firmware and the capabilities of the NXtel, even the FPGA specs and things like that. All the guys who are developing things for the NXtel have had an input on it, and so that they are very much driving the direction it's going. And I think that's a positive way to, positive thing to see, because hopefully, much like the original Spectrum, in where the bedroom coder boom kind of drove the market for it, in the very much the same way, this is very much a niche thing, and I think that the amateur developers out there will start asking more questions once they get their hands on theirs, and it will help drive the main development team into implementing new things on there. So it's really cool to see. So there you go, Prestel and Minitel. Yeah, the guys have just mentioned them. Those were the services back in the day that are no longer available. So obviously, this is the modern iteration of it, and right now this is about the only way you can actually access information in a kind of World Wide Web kind of way for the NXtel. You can download files this way, although there's not an awful lot on here that will allow you to download stuff. There's no, I don't think there's actually hyperlinks or anything like that you can use at the moment, because obviously this is supporting a kind of very low resolution, text-based service, and it's designed for speed and functionality rather than, I suppose a wide range of apps and, things like that. I think the hope is eventually that, there will be a central app store of sorts, or you'll be able to post things up. Maybe even, a proper internet browser, low resolution admittedly, but maybe someone will work on that. But I suppose we'll see a lot in the first 12 months of the system being out. So anyway, sorry, I've digressed a bit there, guys. So we're into NXtel now. You've got a few options on here. You've got connect to the internet, carousel demo, network settings, help keys. A couple of these things don't work right now, but you can get a little bit of help on there, getting yourself on, well, what you will do once it's active. You can change the keys to navigate. You've got the about, so the about isn't even functioning. The carousel demo, I believe, works, yeah. There you go. NXtel is a video text client for the Spectrum NXtel. It will use the NXtel ESP01 to connect to the internet, and it's just giving a kind of demonstration of the way the pages will look. Anybody who had teletext back in the day, it only went offline a couple of years ago, didn't it? Teletext will recognise the kind of format. You've got your date and your time. You've got the page that you're on and everything at the top. You've got navigation buttons on the bottom on certain pages. But this demo has been created just to show you the kind of things you can do. A bit like the charts that you used to have back in the day, the news. Syria war. There you go. These are like recent news that's been posted up on here. And I think he just rolls round, and then I think it just goes back to the first page. How the Thai cave boys are rescued. Donald Trump news. Nothing ever changes there. The World Cup. Facebook launches service for Inuit villages. Wow. A lot of things happen in 2018, don't you think? There you go. You can actually create some nice graphics if you're clever enough to work with the software, and I will talk about that in a few minutes. Anyway, who's from the Red Dwarf should recognise that. A nice train there. And yeah, so this demo is just basically showing you all the kinds of formats and things you can do with this service, if you use your head and use the knowledge of it correctly. So, I mean, for a first internet access, it's the first Spectrum to ever go online. So, I think it's really cool that at least you've got something to kind of look at. But it's not just this demo. This was done initially just to show you the kind of things that can be done with it and how fast it loads the pages and navigates. But there is actually content starting to appear on the navigable pages, and once it finishes this demo, I'm going to switch over to that and show you. So by all means, shout out if you recognise any of these things on here. So that's obviously Elite. We've got a silhouette of a woman there. Oh, there you go, to the credits. We saw some images from Red Dwarf and things like that. But yeah, there's several people been working on that demo, so I think we hit enter, it takes us out of it. Or space, I'm not sure. I might need to jump out. Oh, I'm trying to work out how I do jump out of it now. Oh, I'll reset it. My navigation skills aren't the best. I'll just reload it and we'll go back to the first page. So yeah, so you can see what's possible in terms of, you know, browsing there. But we'll just fire it back up now and we'll go and use some real pages. So once it's loaded the application, takes a second or two. If we hit connect, you can see there's two options there. I'm not quite sure what TFAX is, but NXtel is the area we want to go to. And you can see I'm already connected. And this is the server we're looking at, this Wendy server. I'll shift in space. Thank you, Robin. It could very well be, Jeremy, yeah. We saw Picard and all kinds on there. So yeah, so when you load it up, you're presented with this. We've got the time rolling in the corner. That it depends on that for the sake of navigation and for the sake of updating the screen. So that is why we needed the real-time clock enabled in order for this to display the time correctly. So we hit enter, and when we get to the first page, we're presented with this, which is your initial index page. Now, this is pretty much identical to CFAX or teletext. So you've got the full page numbers on the right-hand side if you want to jump to them. Or in the case of this, where it's got quick links to the most popular pages, on the left-hand side, we've just got 1 to 9. If we tap any of those numbers, we can jump straight into something. So I think the first thing we'll do is we'll go to the NXtel Atlas. So we'll just hit 1 to go to that. And you can see there, we've taken all of the fun out of NXtel and gone ahead and made you a map. So they're not expecting you to fly blind, and even though there's not many people using this right now at all, besides the kind of internal development team and some people who've managed to get their Next online, they are starting to populate the pages, and there'll be some good stuff to look on there. Yeah, we'll go through a few of them, Jeremy, in a minute, so we'll see what happens. Still didn't have a machine until 2 minutes ago, dead motherboard. Oh, have you got a Next then, Tim, and your Next was playing up? Really sorry to hear that. Oh, Firefox. Sorry, guys, I missed a bit of the conversation there. So, yeah. So, there you go. The NXtel, these are the jewels in your content crown. If you're new to NXtel, this is a good place to start. You've been here before, then this. Check back to see what is fresh and new. We always aim to keep this area up to fresh and up to date with the latest and greatest from the next verse. I think if we press enter, it skips to the next page. It's not hard to find great tools. So it tells you there that there are numbered areas. So from 700 to 999, we've got access there to the software library. I'm just going to move you a bit closer for this. And you can see that if we want to go and look at any software, we can jump straight to any of those pages and it will start to give us information on software. 8,000 to 899 is Telesoft. Keep the latest speccy up to date via NXtel. Telesoftware allows you to download and save stuff to your Next or any other platform. That's telesoftware support included, such as the BBC Micro. So that just shows you there that if you wanted to host a file on the server and make it available for people to download directly onto their Next, so I suppose they could roll out updates in this way. If you want to do, I suppose, small demos, but I don't know if you'll be able to do game demos that way, but maybe, you know, screen demos or code samples and things like that. I think you'd be able to do that. Then yeah, there's obviously an area to do that. And we go back to the first page there. So there's a few areas we can possibly jump to. What I'm going to do is just show you that this is very much a user content kind of application. Now, Robin gave me access yesterday. I don't know how far this will go, but he granted me admin privileges to be able to go on and edit and create my own pages. So I actually had a bit of a run around yesterday and explored the site and saw what kind of pages are available. And creating your own teletext style page is actually very, very simple. Once I got to grips with the editor, it was very alien to me, but once I got to grips with it, I found out how easy it is. Now, if I jump straight to page, I believe it is 9201. So it tells you at the bottom there, if you start with an asterisk, so we hit symbol shift and B, and then put in 9201 and hit enter. That takes you to this page, which I created in about 30 minutes last night. That will look very familiar because it's almost a carbon copy of the Revival Survival title screen from our Spectrum export of the game. One thing that is actually missing is that there was actually a copyright line at the bottom, but because of the way the footer works on this, it's actually obscured that line, so I'm going to shift things up slightly. So it just shows you can actually host anything that you want to on here in a format that you want to. Okay, it's not going to be as versatile as, you know, a proper web browser or anything like that right now, but, you know, it shows that if you're creative, teletext style text-based pages are pretty apt to be able to communicate some information. So you can see there I've just made it like our title screen. I've used an application on the PC, which I will show you in a minute, that's allowed me to actually effectively trace the title screen from the Revival Survival actual Spectrum Next game, and I've been able to trace it and pretty much copy the same style of text. I've had to kind of freehand this a little bit so it didn't obscure too much of the screen where it says survival. And you do have to be a bit creative with big chunky pixels, but I managed to do this in about 15 minutes, and then I've just put a bit of a kind of preview there as to what the game will be about. What I will be doing in the next couple of weeks is I will probably add, you can see at the top there where it says 9201A. If you go to 9201B, C, D or E, you can have it as like a scrolling page, so it will automatically roll on, and it will actually roll on and go to that. The footer's been removed. Try reloading the page. How do I reload the same page? Just press enter. Oh, we'll go back to it. So I'm following Robin's guidance here, guys. If I go back to that page now, there we go. So Robin's doing this live. So you can see there, I did actually put the copyright notice at the bottom of the screen. You can see there, copyright 2019 Turner Cage Rusty Pixels. So that does look, I mean, it's a retro pixel art style title screen we've got on the game, and that is pretty much identical to it anyway. So, but yeah, what I will eventually do is I will roll this page on, so you'll be able to I will change it from where it says press fire to press enter to read more, and then you'll be able to get a synopsis of the game, a little bit of background on how we created it, and I will actually try using the large pixels to maybe replicate, put some of our sprites on the page, just make it look nice and fancy. Yeah, I'm going to go say in just a second, Tim. I was just going to talk about that. So it's very easy to create your own page. I mean, I'm just going to pan over to the computer just for 1 second and show you exactly how I did that. Let my computer fire back up. Let's get back into that. Right, so I'm just going to put you over to my PC here for a second. And hopefully the glare from my lights won't obscure it too much. And you can see here I've logged in to the NXtel page, and once you've logged in with your user details, you can then go on, and if you go to pages You can look at any of the pages that are being created. You can check the location of those. You can add your headers and footers. You can edit pages as you need to. You can see there's entries here there's a Team 17 y.am.s page there, and if I navigate to that page on the next, it will jump over to that. So that's 9101. So if I just turn that over there a second, if I just tap that in there, we should get the same image come up on the big screen. There we go. So it's very fast navigation, and you get a little preview of what you can do. Now this page that Robin's created here for NXtel, you can do everything you need to right here on this page. So you can add your headers, your footers. If you want to put links at the bottom, quick links, you can do all that directly on this. If you click the buttons here next to the preview image, you can actually go directly to an editor, and then on this editor you can make any changes you need to the image, and it's not that hard to actually to make changes and do things to pages. So I'm not going to do it on this because this isn't my page, but if I jump back to my page, and I'll do it without saving it, I think, and if I jump onto this, there's the built-in editor here. And what you can do is you use the arrow keys on your keyboard to navigate to like a cell, and then from there you've got a list of instructions here on the left hand side, so you can pick different coloured text. You can make double-sized or flashing text as you want to. It tells you on the bottom there exactly what you're working with in the moment. So in this cell I've got it programmed at the moment for yellow graphics on black, and that's obviously how I've been able to write survival there. It's limited extremely, and I did have a bit of a back and forth with Robin last night over the complexities of this, because it's very alien to me. You know, I'm used to using a mouse and Photoshop, and I can do anything in there. But you know, once I got to grips with it, it was quite easy to use, and you're not limited to the inbuilt editor. The inbuilt editor I wasn't such a big fan of. There's another one here which I actually prefer. This is the teletext page editor, and you can see here there's a bit more information being displayed. In the tiny cells here it tells you what each line is commanding to do. You've actually got a live preview of the page where you can see the image flashing there. And what I actually did with this, if I turn up the opacity, I should be able to, and if I've loaded it, I'll go to the select file. What I actually did is I took a screenshot of the actual game, and using this slider here, you'll see if I turn the opacity up, that's the original title screen for the game. I've overlaid that onto this image here, and then what I've literally done is, using the tools on here, I've traced pretty much what is there using similar colours and just adjusted it slightly to better fit the screen for the teletext image. So there's the original title screen, and you can see there it's all in the same colours and everything. And then if we go over to there, that is the teletext screen. So very, very close. So I'm quite proud of that actually. For my first editing of NXtel, I'm quite pleased with that. And on here you can do various things like call up the grid and change it for widescreen and things like that. So yeah, quite happy with that, but don't need that up now, so I'll just kill that off. Yeah, we'll leave that page because I'm not doing any changes. But yeah, you can navigate around the screen, and I think for each cell you can edit 6 like compartments, if you know what I mean. So you can do some pretty basic pixel art. I mean, if you look at the Team 17 logo there, it's instantly recognisable. You know, the colours all make sense, and obviously I've been able to reproduce my title screen, so it works really well. So I think Robin's intentions for NXtel, it would be good if initially at least, maybe long term, it becomes the kind of de facto way to get your next online. Seems very basic compared to what we use now on modern computers, but at the end of the day, if individual developers create their own user area on here, because you're not just limited to 999 pages, it goes into, I think it's 8 digits altogether. You can create your own user area. You can create your own links on there. You can obviously type in links to main pages. and I'm pretty sure there'll be ways to, you know, you'll be able to kind of have your own user area with an allocated amount of space if you want to make things like demos and that available for people to download directly. There's actually a page I can go to on here where you can download, so I'll show you that in just a second. But I mean, if I just jump out to the next browser page there, you'll see that there is full documentation available on the GitHub for Robin, which gives information on NXtel, tells you how to create a page in the page manager, a little bit of updating need doing on there. There's some FAQ. It tells you about the carousel, gives you a full roadmap to the site, and you can even use NXtel on the emulators if you need to, but that's a little bit more complex. This is the kind of thing you really need to demo on the real hardware, because this is taking, you know, a new wave spectrum and putting it properly online. That's why I'm showing it you this way, and I think it might be a bit more complex to actually do it on Windows, so I'm not going to mess with that. There we go, Robin's just updated, guys. There'll be user areas and permission to stop you messing with other people's pages. I noticed there is actually an area at the bottom which you can't currently touch, but it does say that the owner of the page, that's currently, you can't actually edit that at the moment, but you can see there's a file category, and if you go to owner, I'm sure that'll be locked out to individual owners eventually. Thankfully everyone's not messing around it too much at the moment. But yeah, I think it's a really good service, and I do think it's got a lot of potential to be, you know, a really good internet service for the Next initially. Maybe not as graphical as some, but certainly usable, and certainly a way for both the amateur and the pro developers to get their work distributed initially and share that information when you haven't got access to a PC. I think part of the whole thing with the Next is being able to make it a bona fide computer. You know, it's a computer you can use like you use your PC, okay, in a more basic way. However, having full access to the internet, editing tools, things like that. And I think this is a big step towards doing it. So let's go back to the title screen, to the main page anyway. And we'll take a look at a few more of the other things. So we'll go to Connect, and we'll have a look at a few more things on here. So, telesale software, pause for thought. So we've got an adventure game on here, which is quite cool. I remember, I think the gaming media pages of Teletext back in the day actually had like browser adventure games built into them. And thankfully there's one on here which we can actually take a look at. So if I hit 7, there we go, pause, present adventure writing system, simple holding page removed from the supply +3 version system, to one that supports the great feature of the Next. We can give news, hints, tips and exclusive machine content. Not everything can be revealed yet, but some may be known to the experienced adventurer. Exit south. So yeah, there's a bit of a clue there as to what will actually be going on very soon with regards to that. There is actually an adventure game here. I'm just trying to find exactly where it was, and you can. It's like a navigable. Is it BitBoozle, guys? Oh, there we go. We'll have yeah, there'll be mailboxes and logins, personalised content, your own email inboxes and message boxes on here, which is quite cool. Can you connect to other view data systems? You'll have to ask the technical questions to Robin. Simon, the Wi-Fi settings and login, it doesn't take as long as you might think. If you do need help right now, speak to Robin. He taught me through it pretty quickly, and once I followed what was going on the FAQ that he's put on the GitHub, I found it very easy to actually get online. It's a little bit convoluted at the moment. It will eventually have a wizard to allow you to do that. So I'm just trying to find if is BitBoozle the adventure game? Oh no, this is the this is the kind of like the user letter pages kind of thing. I'm trying to find the number of the demon. Okay, so I'm not entirely sure what that is. Software Hub Index. Let's jump to that. Right, here we go. So, you can see here we're on the Software Hub area of NXtel. There you go, John. Robin is the guy who's created it, Simon. He's the guy who's written the NXtel software. Robin Verhagen guest. He's here on the feed at the moment. Drop him a message and he will help you out if you need it. So on here you can see we've got various pages for this. And you can see there's no page markers just yet, but to be confirmed, games, full and playable demos, tech demos, old and new. There's a link there to plot it. Well, it certainly gives you information on how to get to grips with it. So we'll jump to that. There we go, plot it. This is one of the art packages for the Next, and this tells you kind of how to use it. Although it's not fully populated yet, obviously. So we'll go back to it. We'll navigate our way back. Like I say, I'm not that familiar with the navigation just yet, but I'm doing my best. We'll go back to the software pages. Software Hub, there we go. And we will load up Adventure. So if we go 713. Oh, there is an adventure game. Does anybody know where it is, guys? There's an adventure game page on here. And I was messing with it the other day and I can't find it now. There we go. Use safe from the poor page to travel around. There we go. Sorry. So, there we go. Enter back to set southwest or go east 6. Let's go east. Interactive fiction or adventure. Welcome, wary traveller. NXtel adventure games called If or interactive fiction, the tools that are used to make them. So you can create games on here, itself, you know what I mean? So I've jumped back to this now. So let's see where we can go from this. So exit south for software 2. Oh, that jumps down to that page, I see. There we go, that's what I was looking for. that was the main page I saw. So 8, 2, 4, 6 and 9 navigates you around. 9 to fire, all the games including commercial. The arcade quarter. Easy travel to the software index at 700 by going south. Well, let's go 9 to the arcade quarter. There we go. Arcade games in order of release. You can see some listings there to some of the games already in production or already in the distribution. And obviously a couple of mentions there of some of the commercial games coming out. There'll be a lot more added to this, I'm sure, in the coming weeks and months as they get released. It'd be nice actually, guys, whoever's working on this page, if you could add in my game on there. I'd appreciate that. We'll go north. That takes us to there. Simple hormones. I'll keep those eyes peeled. Save the software. Analytic scrolls, porn and guild. 5 for a special feature. Okay, so some of these things aren't actually functional yet. I get it. Jump there. We'll go 6. No. 4, 5. Completely lost myself now. I've gone in one direction. I've completely lost myself. But yeah, you can see there's plenty there to mess about with. There's still some things to put on there. So yeah, I mean, it's pretty cool, guys. So I'm just catching up with some of your comments here. The reveal key is symbol shift and S. Okay. So let's try that again. Symbol shift and S. This is the secret message that any good adventurer will find pretty quickly. I see now. See, so, you know, you can do some pretty trick things with this. I love little things like that. And I think people will get a lot of a kick out of this. It's a classic adventure, of course, you're lost. You know what, totally. I remember there was an interactive game I think you could get for Windows, which operated a bit like this. And it was basically a text adventure of Nightmare, as you know, like the TV show Nightmare. And I think you can still go to it on a certain page on the internet. I don't know where to find it now, but yeah, you could actually browse much like this. I reckon you could do a brilliant text adventure of Nightmare on here. I think it'd be pretty cool to see. I don't think I could be. I don't think I'd be able to do anything like that. I think I'd get lost just trying to write it. But yeah, that's really cool, guys. And you know, little things like that I really appreciate. So yeah, so that is NXtel anyway. There's probably not much more I can show you of any real depth there, guys, because like I say, it's still being populated. There's pages being worked on, but I think it's really cool to see that we've got the Next is online. I'm glad my Next is online and fully working anyway. And pretty soon, I'm sure we'll see a lot more on there. It'd be nice actually for me to put some little things on here. You know, I might do a revival page or something like that. So, yeah. At the moment, Pete, I'm not entirely sure. Robin can tell you, but pretty sure soon you will be able to register and be able to add your own content to it. So there we go. And yeah, Robin's given me access to put my page on there. I should have jumped to that one last time. Oh, my bad. So we connect. We go to NXtel. Enter. 9201. Enter. There we go. So that was my page. I knocked up quickly last night. I'm gonna work on that in the next couple of days. I know I've got stuff to work on for the actual game, but I'm gonna populate a few more pages to roll on from there and tell you a bit more about the game. And I might even add a few pages for Revival itself. So it'd be nice to give some people some information on the event and things like that. Obviously, a lot about the Next has been revealed at the Revival event, so it'd be nice to give Revival a mention on the Next. So anyway, that is NXtel, guys. It's pretty cool, I'm sure you agree. And I'm pretty sure that soon a lot more people will be using it. And by the time I think that people start to receive their actual Spectrum Nexts, I think a lot of the stuff that I've just been dabbling with on here, people are going to have full and pretty much unrestricted access to. So, let's have a quick drink, sorry guys. So, the next thing I wanted to show you, again, is something quite cool that has been worked on by Dave Sapphire. I've not mentioned Dave Sapphire as of yet, sorry guys, but yeah, he's another guy who's been doing various things for the project, and one of the things he's been working on is an art package. Now, we saw some teasers of this, but a lot of people haven't kind of understood what its purpose is at the moment, if you know what I mean. So we're going to jump onto it now. The application itself is called DNext. I don't know if that's linked to his name or whether it's in relevance to something else. But yeah, DNext is a kind of rudimentary paintbrush kind of tool for the Next, which and it is one which uses the mouse, which is one of the first uses of the mouse for the Next. There's not much using it at the moment. Obviously, you've got Next capability. At the moment, you can only use a PS2 connected mouse. I haven't got a splitter on here for using a PS2 keyboard and mouse because my Next is already fully cased into a 48K, so any keyboard use I want, I can do that way. So I've just got my PS2 mouse plugged straight into the back of my Next here. No problem, Robin. I hope I've showed you enough. I hope I've shown enough on there. I do like to do these things justice and get people excited for what's coming up. and hopefully I'll get to use it a bit more myself very soon. So yeah, so this is NXtel, and as you can see, it's quite plain to look at on face value, but it does do quite a lot. Now, anybody who's ever used older PCs, Amigas, STs, things like that, this is going to look very familiar because it's got a toolbar with some pretty basic kind of drawing tools on here. But the program does so much more than just for arsing around. You can see at the bottom here we've got a pen tool, so we can just draw shit on the screen. I know he's watching, so I'm going to leave a little message on here. Mike sucks. Sorry, Mike. But yeah, we all loved, you know, when we were at school, you know, when we were at home, you'd always mess around with your mouse and you just, you know, write random shit and draw random pictures. I've never been that good at drawing on a mouse, but at the moment, yeah, you can, you know, you got your drawing tool here. You've got a continuous line, which you can do and link around like that, or you can hold the button down and make curves and then intermittently add lines, solid lines. So that's quite handy. You can't move too fast, else you will get like gaps in the lines, as you saw when I was writing this here. I don't know whether that's to do with the speed that the poll rate on the mouse or the way it's been coded. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah. So you've got a few tools there. You've got your typical line tool here. You can just have it fanning out from one position. If you right-click the mouse, you can jump around and start a new position. Do a couple of little starbursts. Do another one actually back here. Do a couple of little starbursts. We've got a fill tool where we can fill in entire areas like that. If you fill in too large an area, you will get a kind of grainy effect going on. So I'm not going to do that. I know I've done a lot of pink. If I right click at the top of the screen, we've got access to the full NXtel palette. I think the full NXtel palette as standard is 256 colours, 512 available I think on by switching between palettes. Mario, yeah, like Mario Paint, yeah, exactly. You can fix the gaps by drawing a short line rather than plotting pixels. Thanks for that, Kev, I appreciate that. But yeah, see, I'm just arsing around in the way like, you know, most people did when they were first messing around with paint tools. But I'm going to show people in a minute, it's a lot more than that. But yeah, you've got access to all the different colours here. And you can see down in the bottom corner there, you've got a foreground palette and a background palette. So if I right click and then right click, that will give me a foreground colour and a background colour. So I can, while I'm drawing here, I can just switch and do the two different colours. Create a bit of a double helix there. It's like Jurassic Park all over again. That's my interpretation of Mr. DNA. You've got shape tools here to draw boxes of various kinds. I'm not going to draw a hypercube. And again, you can do that in whatever colour you need to. I think you can switch between those two, but I'm not sure of the instruction for it. You can also draw circles, and it goes with the template of going for a radius circle rather than dragging and creating an ellipse from the corner. It draws from the centre and pulls it outwards like that. So yeah, so pretty basic tools so far. Dave has written this, and it only contained a few basic tools to start with, but he's adding more and more functionality. Now, as we move further on, this is when we get the more interesting things. We've got a full load and save feature, so anything you create, you can save. You can also load in your own pre-saved images in bitmap format. They will need to be. And this will also save an extra format, which is .nxi. Now, what that is basically a palette cycling bitmap image, which I'll explain a little bit more about now. More yellows, yeah, I'll get to there. Deluxe paint, yeah. Exactly. Like I say, it looks very basic on face value, but then you start looking at the extra little tricks that it can do. We've got a zoom feature, so you can click on any area of this and zoom in, and you will get a split image. In this area here, you will have your kind of your pixel art, and on the left hand side there, you'll be able to see how it looks on the main image. And if you use the cursor keys on your keyboard, or handily for me, because I've got my joypad plugged in, I can just use up, down, left, right, and I can pan around the image to wherever I need to draw any old crap on the screen where I want to. And I think most of your tools work on here, such as fill. So we'll get to a small area that I can fill. Oh, I think that should do it, yeah. There we go, we can fill that area. And that area, and that area, and that area. So yeah, you can do all that while you're zoomed in. You've got a couple of extra little tools down here. We've got a grab brush, which allows you to specify an area. I say grab, it's actually copy and paste. And what we do is we click paste, and that will paste exactly what we've just copied there all around the image. So you can duplicate things like trees or people or whatever around the screen. There's going to be a couple more tools added into the corner here, but as yet Dave hasn't added those in because he's still deciding exactly what they should be. I imagine there'll be a few more palette tools. You can grab and sample, you know, colours from around the screen and things like that. But where this becomes interesting, like I say, is the palette cycling feature. Now with the palette cycling feature, what you can actually do is you can take samples of certain parts of the image, certain colours, and what you can do is you can create a cycling palette, much like an animation. So if we click on the first colour there and click that, we're sampling the pink. Second colour there, we will jump on and we will sample the blue. Third colour there, we will jump on and sample the cyan. And what we'll do is we'll cycle that round. You can actually decrease the number of colours you're cycling through on here. You can just have 2 colours. You can have up to 8 colours, but I'm just going to run through the cycle a couple of times here, just to show you, because I can't remember what the command is to do otherwise. I do apologise. I should be better prepared, but I was refreshing NXtel today, so I'm a little bit rusty. And then if we click down here and hit the C, we get a rather funky neon 80s kind of light show going on. So Dave has demonstrated this better with something that he's drawn. I'm going to go to that in just a minute. But once you've got this image cycling, you can hit the plus and minus on your keyboard, and as long as you've got your, as I've figured out, you've got to have your cursor within the area here. You can speed up or slow down. So epilepsy warning, guys, sorry, it's flashing very fast. You can speed up the effect, or you can slow it right down to pretty much still image, just kind of cycling through the colours like that. You can do it with any kind of colours sampled from the image, so you don't have to sample the whole image to do it. And what I'm going to do is, rather than my shitty effort at drawing there, I'm going to clear the screen, reset the palette. Oh yeah, probably should have done that. And we're going to stop that cycling so I don't have a fit. What we're going to do is we're going to load in a couple of images here. Yeah, sorry, Mike. I'm going to load up some of the pre-prepared images. So if I go to load bitmap, we click on that, and then it takes us to our browser screen there. If I jump into images, again, I'm doing all this using my joypad, which is a bit more convenient than using the keyboard. You can see I've got a load of images prepped on here. So we'll start something basic. We'll go with right, we'll go on New Zealand story. So if I hit that, and you can see it all out of whack at the moment, but I've got an option here at the bottom which says remap palette from bitmap. Now, because this has used its own palette to create it, and it's different to the palette I'm using, if I hit right, it will load the palette that's been saved with the bitmap. And there we go, a beautiful full colour image of New Zealand story. Now, a few of these were actually previewed on the Spectrum Next page, I do believe. I think they're actually shared on some of the normal Spectrum pages and forums on Facebook, because people have redrawn these, showing how it could be done using ULA palettes and things like this. Somebody has redrawn some of these images, which are, you know, quite famous loading screen images, and they've been basically converted into full colour. And it's a good way of showing just how rich the colours and the resolution can be on the Spectrum Next. I mean, you never would have had, I mean, quite a few of the 8-bit computers back in the day certainly wouldn't have had images as rich as this. I mean, obviously you had very bold kind of primary colours on the Spectrum. The Commodore 64 had very subdued beiges and kind of off colours, if you know what I mean. The Amstrad had a very strange palette as well. This is a proper, you know, full colour palette. There we go, thank you, Paul. Andy Green did this picture and it looks fantastic, and you can see right down to the detail, the various shades of green there in the dragon, various shades of blue there in the mouse's head, and various shades of blue used for the mountains in the background. So it shows that you can create some pretty cool piece of art with this. Now, I think this was actually done on a PC, but, you know, because it's obviously 256 by 192 bitmap, it could have just as easily been produced directly on here. You could actually load in, if you wanted to, you could take a bitmap image of a typical Spectrum loading screen. You could load it up on here as an indexed image, and then what you can do is, using the Next palette, you can see the custom palette at the top there that's been loaded with this. You could make your own changes to this, and you could basically recolour any Spectrum loading screen to look how you wanted it to. So I'm just going to change some of the brick. Sorry, Andy, if you are watching, I'm going to undo some of your work. I'm going to change the kiwi to blue, because why not? There we go. He's got a nice blue patch on him, and I'm just going to completely deface this. There we go. Nicely ruined. Blue streak head, blue streak gob, blue gob. There we go. So yeah, you could take a pretty monochrome Spectrum image, Spectrum loading screen image, and you could completely recolour it, you know, to look like this. Now, a lot of people have asked, you know, they saw some previews of this and they've asked, what is the point? Is it just for a bit of an arse around, you know? Is this going to be a free package? Is it going to be a paid package? Is it just going to be something you can mess around in? Well, speaking to Dave has actually said that he wants it to be a serious art package. Now, at the moment, you can only load full-size images, but he's going to add things like a sprite and a tile mode for it. And what you'll be able to do is, because a lot of the assets for games, you know, such, for example, I'm working on Revival Survival, most of the characters that are in the game were designed around a 16 by 16 sprites. That's how most of the game works. A lot of the tiles that were copied from 16 by 16 tiles. So, in theory, if you're working on a game directly on your Next, if you're not doing it via your PC, if you're not doing it fully in machine code or whatever, if you want to code directly on your Next, this tool could actually be used directly to create your sprites, create your sprite sheets, you know, with all the different animations on, to edit them directly in proper Next palette colours and save them, you know, back to your flash, your SD card on here, and be able to use this as a dedicated art creation tool for your next games, which I think is really cool. This is what I mean about, expanding the functionality. When I was talking about NXtel, you know, you're going to be able to download tools and code samples and things like that directly to your Next. With this package, it might seem like a basic kind of paintbrush, you know, package on face value, but it could be a serious, you know, with its zoom feature and the grabs and copy and paste. You could use this very easily. At the end of the day, I create all my sprites in Photoshop, you know, very closely zoomed in with a custom palette. I could do it just as easily directly on here and save them on here. And if Dave were to put in, say, an animation tool whereby it could take a sprite sheet, and if you obviously segment it up, you could have it set up so it will show the animations live on your screen. So, you know, a tool like this could be really good for that. And he's already put a couple of things in which kind of enable you to kind of picture that. So if I go to this, which is load NXI, this is where we start getting a bit more advanced. If I go down to one of the pre-created ones, I'll go down to this one. I think he previewed this one previously, and I load up this one, which is the Knuckles one. The palette's all shot to shit. Let me try a different one. Let's try the Sonic one, see what happens there. Right, so the palette's all off. I'll quickly reset it and we'll do it from scratch. I'm not quite sure how to reset the palette, so we will go back to that and we'll try it again. And we'll load it from scratch this time. And we'll load up the Knuckles image. There we go. We get it in the proper resolution, proper colours and everything. So anybody who likes the Sega will instantly recognise this. This is a section from Sonic 2 with Knuckles. I think it's the Aquatic Ruin Zone, if I'm not mistaken. And it is pretty much a complete screen grab that's been trimmed down, obviously, to the resolution of this screen. And the palette's just basically, it's automatically taken the palette and converted it into the next palette. Because you don't have quite as much of a range of things like reds or greys or things like that on the Next as you might have had on the Mega Drive. So yeah, this has been drawn up, and again we can do the same things to the image I was demonstrating. Just, you know, we can draw on the image up here. We can do funky things to Knuckles, which I'm going to do there. We can fill bits in. We can grab and copy elements of the screen. I can put rings here, there and everywhere, give them a bit more to collect. And he's also put in the palette cycling. You can see it's already got a palette cycle preloaded into this, which is a bunch of blues. And if we hit the cycle here, you can see how this becomes a bit more functional. So if you've ever played the original Sonic 2, you'll know that the waterfall operates on a separate layer, just like that, to create this kind of waterfall effect. And if we zoom in there, you can see that all it's actually doing, it's not fully animating, all it's doing is it is taking the cycle of that palette that I just showed you at the top and just cycling between those 8 colours to create the image that we were looking at. So let's get back out of that. Hit cycle, and you can see that all it's doing is each of these pixels is cycling through each of those colours to create this kind of animated effect, which is quite cool. If for example you were creating, you know, your own game on here, yeah, and you just wanted to see how background effects might look, or you wanted to create a loading screen that had a bit more character to it, then obviously you can do that directly on this application. So yeah, you can do that directly on this application. Hopefully there'll be a way of taking complete images like this and maybe importing them directly into your games if you're working on a game directly on your Next. But as it is, it looks kind of cool. It's a good thing to show off. If you just want to be artistic, I suppose it's a good way of showing things off that way. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things you can do with this art package already. And once Dave starts to add more functionality, I think it will be something, it'll be a real usable tool for people to help develop their own games and, just get creative with the Next. Something you certainly wouldn't have been able to do before and would have only been possible with a more powerful 16-bit computers back in the day. So, yeah, I think it's really impressive. I'm just going to load a couple more up and show you that in a bit more detail. So, hopefully this will load the palette correctly. You'll see there are a few artifacts appearing on screen which I don't think we're supposed to see. But this is very much a work in production. This is the latest build of it, so there are a few bugs, as you noticed just when I was switching between the loaded NXI files. Let's see if it happens again. It may not. Let's see if I can find the ship, I think is the one. If I try that. There we go. This is something that Dave showed on a demo. I think he did a YouTube video showing this. And this is a bit more, this has been basically completely hand drawn himself using the tools on here. So obviously using the line tool, he has created, these sets, a fan of a stretch of lines here of various shades of red. Using the continuous line tool, he has been able to create a ship shape and using the fill tool to fill those in. I'm not going to attempt to do it freehand because I'll make a complete pig's cock of it myself. But yeah, I'm sure he's used, all of the tools at his disposal here to create this basic image. And then just using the palette cycle, you can see he's put the reds into the palette cycle. So if we hit the cycle now, you get this rather funky laser scorched earth kind of effect going on. I think it looks really good. And again, using the features we've got on here, we can speed that up or slow that down. That as an effect within a game, even if it was just for a cutscene or something, I think would look pretty awesome. Certainly something you couldn't have done on a Next back in the day. And again, I apologise for the strobing effect, but you can see it's something you could utilise that and make really cool cutscene. If I slow it down, you can see the different gradients of reds it goes through, from black to, scarlet to proper bright red. I think it's a pretty cool effect, and if you're artistic, you could create some really cool effects using that. Now, I'm in no way super artistic or anything like that, but I have been dicking around with it myself, and I've managed to come up with my own couple of images. Now, the one is the preview that I put up when I said I was going to be doing this stream, and it is this, and this is basically this is a direct sprite rip that I've taken from one of the sprite sheets for Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the arcade. And when I was pleasantly surprised that when I ripped this, as it was, I think it was a ping image originally. I've taken the ping image, I've saved it as an indexed bitmap. You have to save it as an indexed bitmap if you want to import it properly. It will save the palette that it comes with, and when it loads up on here, it will give the closest approximation of that palette on the Next itself, and you can see that it's very, very close. And I've done with this exactly what David's done with the Sonic and Knuckles or the Sonic title screen, or with that image just. And what I've done is I've put in a palette cycling effect, which it saved for me. If I hit palette cycle, you can see there it's going to scroll through all of these colours here. So anything that is that colour, it will add to this cycle and it will cycle through those colours. And if I hit C, you will see it cycles through that effect to create the flame effect. Now originally the white did appear on his skin, so all I did was I slightly recoloured certain areas of his skin here. I apologise if that's lens flaring slightly. I'll move forward to see if that refocuses a little bit. At least you can see my cursor. So what I did is I resampled some of the colour here and made it a little bit darker, so you can see in the palette at the top the colours that are actually being cycled through. What I did is I took the white that was here, because otherwise that would have cycled along with these flames, and I just took a slightly different off-white and recoloured bits of him here so it would not cycle through it on his skin. I also had to change the tone of the yellow on his bangles and his shorts so they wouldn't cycle colours. But you get this rather cool, convincing yoga flame going on here. And if I hit the, again, if I jump back to this and I hit the symbol shift and minus and plus, you can see we get this really cool, I'll just move in close so you can see that properly. You get this really cool flame effect. Now, flame effects like that would have looked really, really cool on I think a lot of Mega Drive games used effects much like that to create a kind of animation where you didn't actually need to have redrawn frames of animation, if you know what I mean. I'm sure the Mega Drive did it. I'm sure probably some of the home computers did it, and it looks. Obviously, the camera's only capturing so many frames, but in person you can see the full range. I think 7 colours of that cycling through. It looks really cool. I'll just slow it down a touch so you can appreciate it, because if you go too fast, it just locks up like that. If I go down one slower, or one slower than that, in fact, and go up close, you can see the range of colours it's actually going through. So you could see really how, if Dave adds the functionality to this, you'd be able to create things like this and maybe paste this into your game. And you know, you could actually add features like this into your game. I mean, what I think is impressive about this is the actual arcade sprite of Dalsim from Street Fighter 2. And I've only done some very, very minor touching up. And what I've done is I've recoloured his skull necklace. I've recoloured in blue. I've dropped his skin tone slightly so it didn't cycle with the flames. But you know, I think it's awesome to see just how smooth, you know, with the Spectrum Next palette, how smooth he looks, and completely indistinguishable from the arcade. It goes to show that, I mean, obviously this is in its proper resolution, so, you know, it's a 256 by 192 screen, and you can see, obviously, the direct sprite would be huge on there, but you could see if you were to cut that in half maybe and scale that sprite down to 50%, you could, if you were good at coding, you could accurately recreate Street Fighter 2 on the Spectrum Next quite easily, I would imagine, and use tricks like this to save, you know, the amount of space you're using. That was kind of why I wanted to show this image. There's actually a couple more I want to show you which are very similar, and show you that, you know, by taking screenshots of games that were never possible on a Next and putting them onto a Next, you can really show what the Next may be capable of reproducing if you're very clever with your pixel art. I'm just going to go down to Akuma here, and we're going to load that. Oh, again, it's not fully loaded the palette. Let me go to, we'll try one of the others. We'll go to, try the Bison one. And again, you can see it's doing strange things with the palette. I'm not quite sure why it does that. We'll quickly reload the program and load those ones from fresh. And yeah, we'll load those ones from fresh now. And I'll show you a clean version of that image. We'll go down to images. There we go, it's loaded the palette correctly this time. Now this here, although it looks very artistically drawn, this is actually a screen capture directly from Ultra Street Fighter 2 on the Nintendo Switch.
So yeah, I was going to, Simon, but I thought nah. So this is Hyper Street Fighter 2 on the Nintendo Switch, and this is a direct screen capture from it. Now again, I've cut it down directly, so this is the actual resolution of the game. So all of the detail of the real game has been preserved. Obviously, the number of colours available is a lot lower and a lot different shades on the Spectrum Next, but the software has done its best job of reading that bitmap information and converting it, and it has quite faithfully reproduced that artwork on here in a quite convincing way. So, you know, it shows that if you're creative with this, if you were to scale this, actually I think I've scaled this down 50%. If you were to scale it down another 50%, you could actually have quite convincing Ultra Street Fighter 2 quality sprites, you know, on the Next. You know what I mean? If you're good with your pixel art, there's no reason you couldn't. And again, I've done this and I've saved it with a palette cycle just through the reds. So the burn from Akuma on his back there, speed it up a little, press the right keys, it would help. Oh, what if I was in the image? There we go. So the flashing Akuma Rage Red, not picking up too well on the camera, but it's actually cycling between the various shades of red, just as it would as the flames come off him when he does his teleport or when he does his red fireball. So you could use these effects to your advantage when you're creating a game and test them in real time directly on the Next. So yeah, I did it with that one, and the final one that I did it with, hopefully it'll load properly, is oh, there's actually one more, but I'll try the Bison one. There we go. And if I hit this would show some of the limitations actually. Now, because he's mostly in yellows, again this is from Ultra Street Fighter 2, because he's mostly in yellows and because it's used some of those shades of yellow for the background, what I haven't done is recoloured it like I did with Dalsim, and you'll see that when I hit cycle, it's actually cycling not only the Psycho Crusher Flame, but the faces, the bandana and some of the background, so you need to actually resample some of those. But it still creates this nice kind of effect there, which is reminiscent of the game itself. I've actually got a capture here from standard Street Fighter 2, in which I have actually adjusted that, and that will show it a bit more realistically. There we go. So this is a capture from, I think it's Street Fighter 2 Turbo on the SNES, and you can see the resolution is a lot more apt for the Next. And I've done a palette cycle for this. I've recoloured some of the skeleton here, so this will work. And if we hit cycle, you see you get this quite cool electrocution effect going on. Just speed that up a touch. And I suppose if you're electrocuting in the game, that's kind of what it might look like, you know. So I thought that was a very apt image to use. And again, that isn't scaled down or anything, that is an actual resolution capture of the game. So if you were working on a game, you could probably cut these pixels in half, shrink these down. I reckon you could create quite a convincing version of Street Fighter on here, you know what I mean? And if you're using effects like this, like say you're cutting down your storage space, could look really cool. So yeah, so that is D-Next anyway. There's not really much more to show you on there. I suppose a little few things for the fans on here. I might as well kind of quickly jump to one for the Amiga fans out there. There's the Amiga tick from Workbench. That's just a basic bitmap image. There's a few more on here. 9-bit. That just shows you the kind of all the gradients you can use with the colours to create this kind of this colour map here. An example of 9-bit colour. Let's see what else we've got. A couple more images on here I'll quickly load up and then we'll move on to the next thing. Is Insta showed. Oh, Toki's a really good example. That's another one of these title screens that's been redone. This was also shown on some of the Spectrum groups recently, and I think that looks absolutely awesome. So, you know, I think, you know, people are really going to start to show some creative shit on here once they start to get their nexts. And yeah, as a package, yeah, I'm really impressed with this. And this is what I say about the Spectrum Next being a more complete computer. People are going to want to use their Next, and even though people have learnt a lot over the years, and you don't have to do the rigmarole of learning, you know, basic or whatever, people are going to be able to code and use utilities like this or NXtel to be able to code and create their games directly on their Nexts. And I think that is what is really going to get a new generation of kind of bedroom coders working on this. You know, I think a bit of gaming 101 would be to create something like a Space Invaders or a Pac-Man clone. And I reckon you could probably, any kind of gifted amateur, you know, within a few weeks of having the Spectrum Next, I think we're going to start to see demos. I think we're going to start to see awesome art packages. I think we're going to start to see what essentially are basic games knocked up by you know, talented individuals really quickly. And I think that having access to these kind of tools from the off is really going to help them. And in turn, I think those people will create new tools. You know, I mean, like Robin's already said, although he's created NXtel, he doesn't want to have the responsibility of ultimately managing it. You know, he wants it to be something that people manage and maintain their own areas, and it kind of looks after itself, and people will populate it, and it will grow organically. You know, if people then start to use it to create text adventures on there, if people start to advertise themselves on there, you know, exactly, Kev, yeah, people starting to, you look forward to what people create. You know, there's a lot of people out there who haven't got 30, 40 years experience in the industry. There's people out there who haven't got 10 minutes experience of pissing about in basic. They're going to want to get into this, and I think it's going to inspire them to do that. And I get so passionate about it because I've been given an opportunity to do something with this before it's even come out. And I'm excited about it because I think I've got to use this development next, and I'm already kind of squeezing all these things out of it that I was hoping it would take me 2 years to learn, you know, when people might not even care too much about the next two or initially had excitement for it. I think there's going to be a dedicated following for this. And in 12 months of me owning this and only using it as far as I can based on what's being released for it, I've got a game in development. I've seen all the games by the experienced coders in development and nearly being completed, and they play brilliantly. I've seen all the control options that are available. We've got, you know, we've got joypad control, we've got mouse control. I'm sure people will create new things. I'm actually working on a dedicated Spectrum Next arcade joystick, which is going to be a hybrid between a Kempston joystick and an arcade control panel. You know, there's going to be so many things coming up for this. I'm sure people will find funky ways of feeding directly from their you know, from their PC straight into the Next. You know, I'm sure people will create tools that can develop on both simultaneously. I'm sure people will create new things on here. I'm sure we'll see proper internet browsers. You know, I've already seen FMV, proper full motion video playback on this, which may be incorporated into games. You know, Kev showed some demos at events which have really opened my eyes, you know. And I think a lot of people are going to get as excited as I am about this. And yeah, it's really encouraging to see these, and I'm privileged to have had access to some of these packages to show them off. It is a big shame, unfortunately, that some of the guys can't make it to Revival this year. I know you've had to make your choice, and I know you've had to go to Manchester this week, but at the end of the day, you know, I'll work closely with you guys, and I'm going to continue to showcase all your stuff. And at Revival, a lot of this stuff is going to be on display. whether the full Next has actually arrived then or not. My Next will be there. Some of the guys will be there. Jim Baggers will be there, and quite a few of the other guys will be there, showing off as far as these games have got so far. And you know, Revival Survival's coming a long way since we first showed it in December. So you know, it's going to be really cool. So speaking of which, I'm just going to finish this video off with a couple more previews of how games have come on in the last couple of weeks, because I'm pretty much done as far as the software packages go now, and time's cracking on. So I'm just going to jump back into this, and I'll show you a couple of games to show you how they've come on. So the first thing I'm going to show you, we will go down. I've now got the final version of Dweeb's Drop, which I've already showed you a video of. There's not much more I can show you of that. There's been no progress on some of these, or at least not that I've been sent evidence of just yet. But Revival Survival's certainly come on, and like I say, I have now got the final version of Scramble on here, so I'm going to show you now how perfect this arcade conversion is, and hopefully play well enough to do it justice, and show you what Mike has pretty much done in his spare time in doing this. Obviously you can't release this as a full paid game or anything, but it is arcade perfect, and that's not an exaggeration. And I've now got it fully working properly in 60 Hz. So, here we go. So the speed of the music at the start is correct. The speed of the ship is correct. He's put a few options into the title screen which allow you to alter the display slightly, so you can choose to cut off your scores at the top, cut off a little of the screen at the bottom, and if you look at the very bottom you'll see the scores actually been moved to the bottom on mine, because the way my HDMI displays it, it would actually be too high off the top of the screen. It would cut the score off, so I've had it dump the score off to the bottom of the screen. Probably going to run out of fuel before I reach the next sector. Oh god. The way I'm holding the controller isn't making this easy to play. Now the other day I was playing this through and I was getting completely to the last phase. Now I'm playing it like crap. I think now my hand's a bit tired. I'll see if I can get to at least the second phase. Nope. I'm going to die straight away. But yeah, anyway, that is Scramble anyway. Like I say, it's completely moved on, and you can then now change the display to be where it needs to be. If I get back to the title screen, I think I can change how it displays, just to show you that you can alter that depending on how your HDMI handles the screen resolution. There we go, alpha options. So you can redefine the keys. You can change the fire mode. So I think because I'm using a controller, or if you're using a keyboard, obviously you've got access to 2 buttons. If you're using a Kempston joystick, I think you can change it so either, you know, 1 button is fire and 1 is a keyboard key is to bomb. But yeah, this is the important one, number 2. If I press 2, you can see that's the standard default. You can see how it's cutting off credits and the score at the top of the screen. There's reduced, which just drops the top of the screen down a little bit, but it's still cut off at the bottom. The display I've got it on is minimal, and you can see that way I'll get the full display of credits at the bottom, the full display of the score at the top on this, and while I'm playing the game, obviously my score is dropped to the bottom of the screen, and that works perfectly well for my screen. For all intents and purposes, it's still arcade perfect, just because I've got a little bit of overscan at the top, you know, in normal mode. Using that setting that Mike's put in rather cleverly has made it play perfectly. It means I can enjoy it the way it should be. So I'll have one more go. But yeah, I got really addicted to this the other day when I was getting a chance to play it through. Mike says, yeah, I said, how are you getting on with it? He says, I've actually finished it. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. And he's like, no, completely finished it. I think I've corrected all the mistakes, got the bugs out and everything. So the pace and everything's correct. It's arcade perfect now. So, and you know what? It absolutely is. I mean, it's got a few more options than the arcade, you know. Let's see if we can get to the second area anyway. Try and pick some fuel up. Yeah, my left hand's actually hurting a bit today. It's mean I'm not holding the D-pad very well in my left hand. Probably because I'm a bit tired, to be honest, but I'll try and get to the second phase for you at very least. There we go, in the second phase. Not going to get much further, I don't think. Oh, got all those in one shot there, not bad. These flying saucers are so hard to hit. There we go. Come on, let me get the other side of the tunnel at least. Oh, I dodged that one well. Worth mentioning, I am using an auto-fire joypad here. It's a lot easier on my thumbs. Oh, I need to get down the bottom. If you're not down the bottom for this section, it's really hard to get through. It's going to be hard anyway, looks like I'm still going to fail. Oh. Oh, that's game over, yeah. But at least I got through that section anyway, so that's how far scrambles come. There's a game on here, like I say, I can't show you just yet. Maybe soon, but I'll quickly show you how Revival Survival's moved on anyway. We've added a few more levels to it. The movement's a lot smoother now. Some of the enemy movement has been taken out in just to try and get the speed and everything, the pace correct. But at very least, I can show you how things have progressed. So again, we've got this in full 60 Hz. There's no cut off on this because we haven't gone too far with the hood at the top or the bottom. So there are a few scores on there, but if I hit go this time, you'll see we've got a new option in there. We've got arcade mode, we've got deathmatch, and we've got redefined keys. So you can now choose your control scheme. Right now at the moment, unfortunately, 2 isn't working, but unlike the arcade, this is going to have a full 2-player versus mode, which we're going to be working out the details on. Completing the player 1 game first, most likely, and then we're going to work on that. But I think this will be an awesome game to have proper head-to-head play, where 2 people will go against each other. They'll be able to pick characters. So some of your favourite friends from the Revival Retro events, you're going to be able to play as. You might be able to play as Jim, as Mike, as myself, probably Aaron, and a couple of the other guys you'll be able to pick from. And it will be kind of an enemy rush kind of situation is where we're talking at the moment, where enemies will kind of feed their way down. You'll have to hit the highest score, but you'll also be able to frag each other on screen, so it should be pretty cool. Something between what's it called? That tank game in the Atari 2600. Something between that and Bomberman, I suppose, is the best way to describe it. But let's get into the game anyway. So the intros have all been added now. We've got music on all sections. There's a few characters got to be moved in and out of the game. We've now got animated intro sections, so the enemies are moving around the tables the way they're supposed to. We've got the how to play screen up. You should be able to hear the music. And we've got the preview screen. You can see now the pace. On the last version that I showed you, we'd increased the pace massively of all the characters, and it made it a little bit too difficult because the respawn rate was a little bit too quick, and it made it very difficult to actually complete the stage unless you were pretty hardcore and played it a lot like myself. So it's been slowed down. You'll notice the barrel isn't bouncing at the moment. That's because there was an issue with collision detection on the character when you're trying to jump over it. That will probably be reintroduced at some point. But Space Fractal's music is sounding really good. The pace of the character feels much like the arcade version now. The jumping is very much like the arcade version. you can still jump and steer around corners, so that's a good feature to have in. And you can now actually complete the first 4 stages, so let's see if we can get that far. Obviously Mike C has now recorded a proper 60Hz capture of this, which is up on YouTube, and you can get a link to that from the Spectrum Next Games website, where you can see previews of this. It's a difficult stage, we'll see if we can get through it. You can see some of your favourite characters there. We've got Vinny lingering around, Jason from the Centre for Computing History, Andy Spencer up on the left hand side there. Oh. Quite a tactical game once you get into it, this. And the enemies can catch you off guard and trap you very easily. So you've got to be quick and you've got to be efficient. Oh! The last one to collect and I got killed. Come on, I've got to be able to do it, because the last demo I showed you, I couldn't actually access level 3. We've now got level 4 in place, so I need to show you level 4 at least. To show you how well that's translated. We may change the hit points of some of the enemies to adjust the difficulty slightly. The animation of the barrel will be reinstated at some point. Some of the level layouts may change, but we're happy at the moment where it is. Oh, that was a hard bit to get around. I've changed the layout of some of these stages from the arcade version, so they actually pose a bit more. I'd simplify them to make it easier for the smaller screen space, and then I kind of made certain bits more difficult, and I'm starting to regret it now, because some of these angles are so tight. It looks very simple, but you've got to look, unlike Pac-Man, you've got to look in so many different directions at once. So that's level 2 done. We've kept some of the sponsors in on these stages, which is quite good. Oh, I took a hit there, I didn't need to do that. Oh, I'm fading fast. Come on, see if we can get through level 3. It's where it starts to get difficult, because you haven't got as many paths to choose from when you're running around. So you've not got many escape areas, you've got to kind of jump over them. I'm hoping everyone kind of recognises what the games are on this. They're actually arcade boards, MVS cartridges, and CPS2 cartridges. And the music on this stage is actually quite a cool remix of some of the old classic Spectrum and 8-bit games. Space Fractal's done a brilliant job on some of the soundtracks on this. Oh, I need to get that bit there. Ah! I took the hit, oh well. Come on. That's a hard bit to get into, because you've got no way out. 2 left to get. But look how busy it is down that corner. Look at them, and when they respawn, look how much faster all the enemies move as well. Oh! This is just getting stupid now. Damn it. Oh, I was hoping to get to level 4. But we've now got a functioning high score table. It shouldn't crash when we do it this time. There we go. But yeah, the game is coming on really quickly. You know, there's going to be a lot more levels in this than the arcade. I've worked on so many assets for it, but I just haven't had a chance to get them uploaded. And you can see like the scores are balancing out a bit more evenly now when I'm getting to about the same stage. So yeah, before long this will be a more complete game. You're going to see a lot more from this, but the guys are finishing up their main games at Rusty Pixels right now. So you'll see those quite a while before you see this finished. So anyway, we'll kill that down. So for a sec. So anyway, guys, that was my rather lengthy 2-hour video on the Spectrum Next utilities and applications. You can see that obviously a lot more has been going on than just game production.
a lot more has been going on with me. I'm still working on my own game. I'm doing so many things for so many different people. I'm still working on my house. I'm still doing like the events, the other people's events and things like that. But I'm asking you all now. Everybody's loved them the last couple of years. You want to see the latest things happening? Make your way to Revival this month. In June. Get your tickets now. Get yourself to Revival. It's an awesome weekend, whatever happens. We've got loads of cool things on. We've got some cool guest talks. We're going to have more rare systems than ever before. We're going to have more arcades than ever before. We've got our arcade tournaments and everything going on. And there's going to be a Spectrum Next showcase, just like there has been the last 3 years running. So get your asses along to Revival. But yeah, the Spectrum Next, shaping up really well. The extra utilities that are being created now, they're going to be awesome. I think they're going to be really cool tools for people to use, whether it's just occasional use or a play about or whatever. They are serious development tools, and I've been messing around with them, and you learn a bit more about the system if you actually do things on the system than just doing it all on a PC and copying it over. I think for people who've never used an X before, this is going to be their first exposure to it. Once you've got access to those things and you start using tools on there, you're going to see the way the system works a lot better. You're going to become more fluent in using the system. I'm really excited. It's just around the corner now, and so many of you there are waiting on your systems. It's been confirmed the second batch is going to be done via a Kickstarter, so more people are going to be able to access them than ever before. More people are going to be able to own Nexts, and they won't have the 2-year wait. 3 years from when we actually first heard about it. They're not going to have that wait, and everything's going to, all the fine points are going to be worked out, So yeah, the Spectrum Next is going to be seriously awesome. So yeah, I've got a kind of a busy week next week, but I'm going to try and get me some more videos done. I'm waiting on some more preview videos, preview samples of games for the Next from some of the other developers. Once they come in, I will do more videos on those for you. But stay subscribed to YamYam Retro Gaming, and in the next couple of weeks I'll be doing some awesome videos on more retro gaming, some stuff you might have not seen before, some new flash devices, some new games and things like that. So stay posted to the page, and thanks for watching this video. If you've got any comments or queries or anything like that, put them on the video afterwards. You can always refer back to it. I will always refer back and answer anything that I've missed or that you ask afterwards. And if you've got any questions for the developers, most of them check in on these streams, so make sure you keep checking on the streams and you can talk to them directly. If you're in the UK, you're going to have a lot more exposure to a lot of these guys. But if you're abroad, you might not get access to a lot of these people. So get a chance to jump on these streams, ask them the questions directly. And if you don't want to ask them, put them to me and I'll ask them myself, and I'll get you the answers that you want. But yeah, I'm going to keep making these videos as long as you keep watching. Hope to see a good bunch of you at Revival in June. And in the meantime, hopefully, we're all going to get our Spectrum Next really soon. So take it easy, guys. Good night.